Hey guys, it is me, the History Nerd, back again for part 2 of my pre-Gods and Kings Germany game. So, looks like we'll hit this. That sounds good. Now, there's already some reviews out on the Gods and Kings expansion pack. Not looking all that favorable, but kind of neutral, so that's I'm not as excited as I was before, but I'm still pretty psyched. Still gonna start a playthrough of Austria tonight. I'm about 3 hours ish away from it being released, so this will probably be my last video of pre-Gods and Kings, which I'm okay with. And yeah, so I'm just going to play around with this map a little bit more, see what I can get accomplished. I'm also going to go on a little bit of a historical rant while I play through, with all the excitement. This is sounding a little too loud. I'm just going to maybe bring that down. With all the craziness going on in Europe, one of the fun jokes to be tossed around is that Germany, for a third time, is going to be able to conquer Europe, finally. And as a fan of history, I kind of take issue with this thought that World War I was the fault of Germany. I don't really subscribe to that historical theory, mainly because I think World War I was a clusterfuck, a historical clusterfuck that it's not right to pin it all on the actions of Imperial Germany. Oh, we got a golden age. If you look at the real cause of the war, right? The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand by Serbians. I think, you know, if you're watching a Let's Play of Civ, you should probably know that. So this idea that Imperial Germany somehow started World War I don't follow it at all. So I'm going to rant a bit about that and see if, I don't know. I mean, I'm not thinking I'm going to change people's opinions or perceptions or whatever, but just see if I can sort of clear it up. So, yeah, World War I started, again, assassination of Franz Ferdinand. And I think what's not really clear for a lot of people is just, you know, what... I shouldn't have moved him. What was really going on at that time. Immediately after the assassination, it seemed like the world was kind of supportive of an Austrian response to Serbia. You know, there were still a lot of monarchs kicking around in Europe, and just the idea that, you know, nationalists could come along and off one was still kind of concerning to a lot of the ruling classes. The problem, and why things kind of went south with the whole situation, was firstly, Austria took their sweet time in expressing what they felt would be proper reconciliation for... oh, damn it. For the death of Ferdinand. It took them about a month of humming and hawing and diplomatic wrangling to get their ultimatum out, which ultimately turned out to be, if you look at it, pretty unacceptable. It was pretty evident that the Serbians weren't gonna go for it, and you know, I think one of the points was the trial of the assassin was gonna be in Austrian soil, following Austrian laws and all this other fun stuff that for obvious reasons would really piss off the Serbs. Now, during this diplomatic wrangling that was going on in Eastern Europe at the time, the big powers, aside from Russia, were really sort of taking an interest, but nothing too major. The Balkans were a tinderbox, and there had been, conflicts throughout the early stages of the 20th century in the region, and I think initially, empires like Germany and France and Great Britain kind of looked at that and were like, okay, so here we go again in the Balkans. Which is why Germany said to the Austrians, paraphrasing, obviously, whatever, we got your back in this. The whole quote-unquote blank check from Germany. I don't think you can take the blank check idea and say that by saying to their allies, hey, don't worry, we got your back in this, that Imperial Germany started the war. I think World War I especially was just a series of horrible, unfortunate misunderstandings and just, poor governance all across the board. By the time Austria issued their ultimatum, a month after the assassination, a lot of the world had kind of moved on. There's plenty going on. There were situations, tensions all over Eastern Europe at this time with the rise of nationalism and the collapse of some of the older empires. And you could see the Austro-Hungarian Empire was having real issues with nationalism in the Balkans. And Russia was certainly throwing their influence in there under the whole pan-Slavic idea, where, appealing to the Serbs and other people that, hey, you guys aren't German, you're Slavic, so you should come be with us. And Russia's response to what was going on in Serbia during this whole time was very much, in opposition to what the Austrians wanted to do. For obvious reasons, they had completely conflicting goals in the region. They both wanted the region, basically, in their sphere of influence, to borrow a term from Paradox Games. And I mean, when the Russians finally mobilized their troops, Tsar Alexander, I think it was Alexander, or maybe it was Nicholas. No, it was Nicholas. Issued the order for mobilization, and then was shocked to find out what that actually meant. And the unfortunate thing was, once you mobilized a country like Russia, there was really no turning that off. And so after the Austrian ultimatum, that's when Russia mobilized their forces, which, for obvious reasons, caused Germany to mobilize their forces because they'd given a diplomatic guarantee to their closest ally, the Austrians, that no matter what happens, we got your back in this. And then, when Germany mobilized their forces, well, that kind of got France concerned. And France went ahead and mobilized their forces. So you can see this cascade of just this situation where what should have really been a war between the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Serbia, and whether that should have happened or not is I mean, taking a look at it, Austria was being a dick. They were being a massive dick to Serbia, and that's really what caused this war. Austria really pushing to punish the Serbs, the Serb nation, I should say, for a crime committed by one for lack of a better word, terrorist or Serbian freedom fighter. I don't think it's fair to blame Imperial Germany for that. I really don't. And it kind of bugs me that that's still the prevalent view of a lot of people, is that, oh, look at Germany now, trying to conquer Europe economically, like they tried to do twice in the last century, and it's nothing like that at all. World War One was not Germany trying to conquer Europe. I think it's been long enough since this war, we can kind of start moving past the propaganda of the time and start looking towards, what really happened. That's the advantage to having events, historical events, move out of living memory, is that we as a society can sit back and take an objective look at what was going on, and get past all the rhetoric of the winners justifying what ultimately was an entirely pointless and hugely devastating war. I mean, the world hadn't seen conflict of this sort ever, and we still haven't. World War II was a horrible, horrible war, and many, many people died. But more service personnel died in World War One, and for what? Nothing. So I think it was important at the end of that war to come out and say, look, obviously Germany was the bad guy here. We're going to make them pay, and states have to do that with their people. To convince them that what they had just been through was an absolute, this absolute total shit show that they had been through was actually worth it. And indeed, if they hadn't gone through it, all of Europe would be speaking German. But that's just, it's really not the case. It's an unfair historical injustice that I think is slapped on a country that, because of its history afterward, we're just very used to blaming for bad things. It's really easy in the latter half of the 20th century to look back and say, well, look at Germany, what a nation of warmongering assholes, when that's really not the case. They were just playing the imperial game, same as the United Kingdom. I mean, the United Kingdom wasn't involved in World War One until the Germans moved in to the Low Countries, and that's what brought the UK in, and that's what really made it a world war. Because at that time there were a lot of colonial powers, but certainly nothing to the global extent as the British Empire at the time. And it's important for history to be able to look back on it and view it objectively and understand it, that we need to get past the views of the time and the views that are represented, and really understand what actually happened. I mean, if you take a look at Napoleon, for instance, if we were going off purely what was written about him at the time and the opinion of him at the time, depending on your geographical location, he would either be a savior or a horrible maniacal dictator akin to Hitler. But we don't think of Napoleon as a glorious, wonderful person, or as a vile, evil dictator. We view him as he was, as the historical record presents to us without the bias. And I think it's time to take that approach to Imperial Germany. I don't know if you can ever take that approach to Nazi Germany. That's an entirely different case. It goes without saying the Nazis were evil, and that's very evident in the historical record, and I think that'll remain in the historical record, because what happened in the 30s and 40s in Germany and Eastern Europe was atrocious and disgusting, and one of the largest blights on human history. But to say that Imperial Germany represented the same sort of values just without the Holocaust is that's a step, especially when you don't apply that thought to the other powers. I mean, during World War II, no one else really had death camps the way the Nazis had. What was going on in the Soviet Union was pretty bad. And, it's a philosophical discussion as to whether it was better to die starving and freezing or die overworked and starving and in a death camp. Take your pick on that one. I don't think either's a very good option. But, the internment of the Japanese in North America, for instance, wasn't as bad as the concentration camps. It was still a blight. It was still something we shouldn't have done, but it happened. And it was bad, but not as bad in comparison to what our enemies were doing. In World War I, we can't really approach it that same way. Everybody involved in World War I was bad. There were no good guys. It was a colonial, well, not a colonial, it was an imperial war for really no purpose. At the end, the actor who started it, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, ceased to exist. The Balkan states went through some turbulent times in the later teens, 20s, and 30s. It was just everyone was involved for all the wrong reasons in World War I. It wasn't imperialistic expansion into Europe. It certainly wasn't the Germans thinking they could make a play to run, or to for instance conquer France. It was just really a pointless war that shouldn't have gotten as big as it did. It was really just the bravado and the arrogant and ignorant statesmen who allowed World War I to happen. No one nation is at fault for that war. Aside from maybe the Austro-Hungarian Empire for being such dicks to the Serbs, but it just bothers me when people's interpretations of history are still based in the old cliche of whoever wins the war writes, or whoever what is it, the victors write history or something like that. It's important to get past that, because if you don't, you won't ever get a true understanding of human history. And as a fan of history, I think that it's important to have that. It's necessary to have that, to understand where we are, how we got here, and even what the future can hold for us. So yeah, kind of important to look past this the propaganda of the time and really consider all aspects of history to understand it better. I don't know. That seemed. I was hoping that rant would go longer. It seemed to end kind of quickly. But yeah, I guess during that time I was able to increase or make Berlin a little bit pretty. Got another city on the go. Got another one coming. And yeah, really just still killing time before gods and kings. Well, I'm in the mood to rant. I'm gonna rant again. on France. This is another one that really bugs me. Is people who like to and you know, who like to joke about French military power and French military ability. And you know, the old joke, a bunch of cheese-eating surrender monkeys. France can't fight a war. You know, their national flag on the battlefield is all white. Stuff like that. Complete and total garbage. Complete and total garbage. The French military, like it says in the Civ intro to them, and I have to imagine some people looked at that and just scoffed, but it's true. It's true. The French military really kicks some ass. Just you know, going back to Napoleon, and going back even further than that. I mean, of all the European nation states that we think of today, so like Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, all of them, France was the first one to unify. Not just through conquest, but that certainly did help. But their military allowed them to do that better than, you know, certainly better than the Germans, who didn't unify until 1871. Better than the Brits. Better than Spain, but I mean, that's kind of a special case. They had, naturally, the Muslim invasions to deal with, whereas France didn't. Side note, you all can thank France for beating back the Muslim invasions, or curse them, you know, depending on what side you're on in that. But it was French military power, I think up there by the Iron, that pushed back the Muslim invasions in, I think, the 900s. So they got as far as Spain and Portugal, and then the French beat them. You know, medieval warfare, France was fairly dominant. Just take a look at some of the weapons used back then. Siege equipment, the trebuchet, that's definitely a French word. They were, you know, massively involved in crusades at the time. They were one of the first players in the colonial game. They got to North America before the Brits did. The oldest settlement in North America is indeed Quebec City. And you know, you can't really get there without having a good military. And you know, the French Empire, the French colonial empire, was really second only to Britain. And Britain's kind of a unique case in this sense. But you know, the idea that because France didn't do so well in World War II, and even that, you know, that's kind of a stretch when you take a look at the circumstances that they were fighting in, and the just the issues they would have had for the first time fighting a blitzkrieg, coming at you where you don't have your defensive fortification set up. Now, granted, the French should have known better. The Maginot Line didn't help them, or wasn't the site of the invasion of World War I when Germany pushed in. Why they thought the Germans would go that way a second time, I'm not really sure. But you know, when you have the entire weight of a military-industrial complex like Nazi Germany, combined with extreme fanaticism in the troops involved, I mean, the Germans were amped up, and they were looking for a fight. You can't really. You can't really expect to hold out too long on your own with that. And you know, we don't necessarily view it that way. And we have to remember, the only reason Britain was able to survive Nazi Germany was because they're on an island. If if there had been a land bridge between France and the UK, pretty confident, pretty confident the Nazis would have rolled through the United Kingdom fairly quickly in 1940, or even 39, even before. It's just not, for a nation with such an impressive and storied military history, it's not fair to the French now to say they got it. They're a shitty army, and they don't, they're not good, when the historical record certainly doesn't back that view up. 1940, it's kind of a blip. And we have to remember they did fairly well in World War One, all things considered. After the soldier strike, and they went mainly defensively, which, I mean, they had to. They had no other option, and the only reason Britain was able to take a more aggressive stance is because they had that colonial empire. They had that massive, massive colonial empire to be able to throw the troops in. Now, that's not to say France didn't, but it wasn't as big, and it wasn't as populated, which I think is the key. We'll move that guy down and build a road to Cologne. I mean, Great Britain had India, and Canada, and Australia, and South Africa. Like, they had all these places where they could just take people, throw them in uniform, and go. France had a lot of land, they didn't have as many people. And, you're forced into fighting a defensive war. That same, really, for most of the war as the Germans. Let's not forget that. Their trenches were pretty defensive in nature, and it's just not fair to the French. I don't know why I'm standing up for them so strongly, but I don't like historical injustices. I can understand the humor behind it, but I don't know, it's after I've been ranting and standing up for you, this is what we get. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure this war is going to end the playthrough. I have a feeling France is going to kick my ass. They're going to prove my point right now, is what's going to happen. They're going to take out the Germans. So yeah, a couple of historical rants in, right on, living up to the name of a history nerd. Yeah, this is not going to go well. You see, look at how good the French army is. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've changed anyone's opinion or not. You might still be sitting there thinking World War I was caused by the Germans and France never had a good military. In which case, whatever. Sorry for making you angry at my ranting. But it's just something, I mean, I've always had an interest in history. And I don't like the injustices that sometimes occur because of it. And I think it's very, very, very important to remember that despite what any of your primary sources tell you, they're not telling you the whole truth. You know, it's all in the perception of the writer, and as readers of history, you just have to remember that. And if your sources for, you know, who's at fault for World War One stem from mainly English primary sources, yeah, you're gonna think it's the Germans. But it isn't. It's not the Germans. You know, everyone was at fault, and everyone was a bad guy in that war. Let's not forget that. Uh, you know, everyone shot prisoners. Everyone treated people poorly. Everyone committed war crimes, what we consider war crimes now. Everyone committed those back then. Um, so let's just remember that when we start looking at history. Again, though, like I say, um, it's just important to remember that, and to try and recognize internal biases and biases of the time. That's kind of critical. All right, suck on that. I'm going to completely disprove my point, and Germany's going to steamroll over France here. That's what's going to happen. Nope, spaced out. That's never a good thing. Man, they have a lot of archers coming my way. I guess really I should have expected this. How much... Yeah, I should have expected this. It's pretty evident that the French were gonna be on top compared to me this go around anyway. Wow, hardly any damage. Yeah, that's better. And we'll hopefully take care of those guys. Hey! Deutschland über alles. I guess... Damn it. Okay. Well, we can still go that way. Yeah, I was really hoping those rants would take me longer. Oh well, c'est la vie. Next time I'll prepare something a bit better. Maybe, I don't know. I'll be too in awe of gods and kings and having, oh my god, what the fuck moments to get on long-winded historical rants. Actually, to get back on topic first, to get back on top of the Civ topic, wow, failed sentence. What I'd like to see eventually make it into Civ is extreme engineering, or, you know, complicated engineering. Certainly not at this point of time. Although maybe, you know, stranger things have happened. But I'd like to be able to build bridges over, like, 1 hex bits of sea. I mean, that's even coast. I'd like to be able to build bridges over coastlines. I think that would be a pretty cool addition, and a pretty handy one. So, well, it might cost a bit more, I don't know, but it's probably still better and quicker than building a road all the way around. Not what I wanted to do at all. I think that would be pretty cool. I don't know. Wrong one. Yeah, maybe we will beat them back. Holy crap. I get why workers, when they're quote-unquote in range of an enemy unit, stop. This is ridiculous. That's insane. That archer is no threat whatsoever to that worker. I shouldn't have to go back each and every turn and be like, yes, I still want you to build your road. Yes, I still want you to build your farm. Ridiculous. You know, now, even now, they're out of range, so it shouldn't be an issue. But it will be. That farmer is gonna be, hey, do you still want me to do this? French are kinda close. I might die. Insane. Upsetting. I guess the military advisor kinda knew what was going on there. See, ridiculous. That guy doesn't. Interesting. That's far enough away. That isn't. Don't get that at all. And they retreat. The French don't like to smile. I wonder if this is an island and we're the only two civs on here. I had one other game once that went like this. I was just on a tiny little island, one other civ, and I thought, sweet, this is gonna be a nice steamroll. Not gonna be an issue. We wound up locked in, I think, like a 2,000 or 3,000 year long war, and because the war was so draining for both of us, neither of us advanced, and it was basically like Papua New Guinea, you know, where the people are still living Stone Age lives. It was basically that. Sucked. Absolutely worst civ game I've ever played in my life. Munich. Okay. Lighthouse. And doesn't really matter. Gonna be ending this game fairly quickly anyway. Not that I don't think I can't come back from this, but because I'm fairly confident I could. I'm fairly confident I could build a bunch of crap, throw it against France, beat them back. But because Gods and Kings is out in like 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and I've got to get this video reformatted, uploaded to YouTube, out there before that comes out, because I want that to come out, and I want to just really get into it tonight, which means it's probably going to be a pretty rough day at work tomorrow, but screw it. I'll deal. And yeah, so there we are, fully honorable. I think that's a good, no, we'll sync that. There we go. Now at least Germany is free of barbarian waters. So, yeah, the next video I post will be of the Austrians in Gods and Kings. That's going to be pretty exciting. So not even going to bother saving this game. In fact, I'm probably going to come back and delete all my old save games, clean it up a bit, and looking forward to Gods and Kings. So thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.